Today we are going to attempt Python quiz on Turing.com, as this is the most basic quiz for data scientist roles and also for full stack developers who are working in Python. So I'm here on this quizzes tab, and in my top quizzes for your role it shows me Python and it says like this is a 45 minutes test. So let's start it. Accept and start quiz. So the correct answer here is C in the finally clause, because the code in this clause is always executed, whether an error scenario occurs or not. Click on next. Given a Python 3 string of type Unicode, we would like to store it as UTF-8 string. Okay, so this looks like correctly formatted already. So we should not be calling D code, but we should be calling encode. So this is option D. Next. You are working on a Python 3 program, select the statement that is not true with respect to sub-processes in Python. A special value that can be used as the std error argument and indicates that standard error should be redirected into standard output. So this is not true. Suppose you are given a list containing the list of consecutive integers between 1 and 100, you are required to create a second list containing the cubes of those integers in this range that are multiple of 5. Which of the following approaches is the simplest and why? Yes, this looks correct. We should always use comprehensions when we are performing operations on a list. So consider the following Python 3 code. Okay, so this is, okay, they are drawing square, circle, shape manager. Okay, which of the following statement is true? So this is a case of duck typing and this is supported in Python. So option A looks correct here. What is the following code snippet trying to do? So they have 3 lists and okay, they have 2 lists. So we are just checking all the elements of A which are present in B. Okay, so the first 2 options look very similar, but there is a small difference. It's like at most and at least. So this one is like at most. So option A is correct here. Next, consider the following snippet of Python code. So here option C looks correct. Next. You are working on a Python 3 program that is storing a sequential for loop through a list of input strings on some operation F, where F is CPU bound. F is embarrassingly parallel as follows. For line in lines, F line. Given F is taking a long time, you would like to take advantage of your multiple CPU to parallelize the operation. In this case, which of the following approaches would work? Select all that applies. Okay, so here option A, option D and option C, all these 3 looks correct. Let's go to the next question. What does the below code snippet do? Option B. Next, what is wrong with the argument list for Python function defined below? Select all statements that apply. The variable length keyword argument list static grid search params needs to be listed at the backend of the argument list. The non-default positional argument iteration and cutoff needs to be listed together at the front of the argument list. So this is true. Next. Consider the following snippet of Python code. Select all that apply. The function found it adds to the technical debt since there are unused variables in scope. And this is the only one which looks correct here. Declare found as non-local within the scope of helper to enable scope traversal out of nested function. Right. You are a developer tasked with writing a Python application where 99% of the public API endpoints that you expose works fine, but the one new endpoint you just added has a bug. You do not want that one new endpoint to crash loop your deployed service. Which of the following non-blocking calls would you use? And the correct answer here is AIO run.run main. You have a Python 3 program P that is being tested by its corresponding unit test file TP. You introduce 5 test cases TA, TB, TC, TD, TE. Which of these tests pass individually when run alone? However, when you run all these tests using default parameters, some of the tests fail to pass, and every time the failing test cases are different. What do you think is the most likely reason? The design and implementation of P or TP have shared states across tests, either in P or TP. Next. You are a Python developer tasked with writing an application to control a swarm of 10,000 drones to set up dazzling laser show at the FIFA Football World Cup. This needs large-scale synchronous I/O multiplexing using select system calls. You have two approaches. Use multi-threading or use coroutines. Which approach is preferable and why? Coroutines are preferred since this mechanism uses the event loop that is free from the overhead of stack allocation and context switching that we associate with multithreading. This is correct. Coroutines are preferred since their subsequent invocations are managed by the event loop through the fan out and fan in mechanism. This also looks correct. So I think next. When a particular numeric data field is not available in a dataset for some reason, how should a Python data scientist go about deciding whether to denote that missing value as NaN or of type none? I mean, both none and NaN, they don't represent anything, and it is more efficient to store NaN value. So I think option E is correct here. What is the difference between the implementation of the method rep_r and string within a user-defined class in Python? So both options C and D are correct here. You have a Python 3 program that implements a basic scheduler that runs some tasks at a specified time. Run a program X every day at 13 o'clock. The implementation of this scheduler fetches the system clock to get the current time to determine if a task needs to happen. If you write a test for it, example at time t, schedule a task at t plus x, the task will actually run at t plus x. How would you test this use case? So we can implement our own interface for clock with a fake clock, and the option A is correct here. Consider a Python module arbit.py that imports symbols from the built-in random module in two different ways. Which of the above snippets of client code will work, not work, and why? So the client code 1 will work and client code 2 will not work because import 2 does not paste choice into the symbols table of arbit.py, whereas import 2 places both shuffle and choice into it. Consider an online card game simulation program that implements a deck of playing card as follows. Which of the above snippet of client code will not work and why? So option B. You have a Python 3 program that exposes an API function that has a type specified for the input parameters and returns values as follows. During runtime, you notice that all callers were actually passing in string type for both input parameters, despite expecting a string and float parameter. However, the program did not raise any errors or warnings what happened. So in this logic, there is no runtime check. So this option C is correct here. Consider the following snippet of Python code. Which of the following expressions in Python code will deliver the desired result to obtain the list of squares of numbers in L? Lambda map list. So this is correct order. You are working in a Python 3 program. Consider the following code snippet from a distributed application. Suppose you want a tighter control on the number of threads used. What would be your approach? Just use a thread pool. You are a developer working on a Python 3 program. You are asked to do continuous integration using sockets for sending data between applications. Consider the following code snippet from your own application. Which of the following statements is true for the above code snippet? Correct answer is B here. Some of the TCP sockets may not have a peer name and hence we are catching the exception using socket error. Consider the following Python program that tries to manipulate a tuple. What would be the behavior of this program and why? The program would run successfully since only a reference to the list is stored, which is immutable, but the list pointed to by it can be safely modified. You need to define a Python class name widget in your application with an attribute named value. A fairly common name. In which of the scenarios below is it better to rename self.value to self._value? So the widget is defined as part of public API and the clients of this API are expected of subclass. Widget is their own inheritance hierarchies. We do not want methods of these subclasses to approach value. Next, consider the following snippet of Python code which is part of larger function implementation. The time complexity of the above code is O(n) square log n. What are the differences between using list comprehension and generator expressions to populate sequences in Python? Select all that apply. So both B and E are correct here. You are a developer writing a Python application to synchronize a set of drones to perform a procedure in real time. This needs synchronous I/O multiplexing implemented by performing non-blocking I/O using threads, each of which calls a select system call on a set of read-write I/O ports. P, C. We are working on a Python 3 program that is trying to compute some naive integer factorization, that is, some compute intensive tasks. Which of the following changes will actually help improve the runtime? So the correct answer here is A. So let's check the results, and we have successfully passed the Python test here. If you have found this video to be informative, then please like this video and comment on it, and also subscribe my channel.